would explain dreams as all given by God. Would you mind? Yeah. Yeah, I think most objections you come up with, you can always see immediately how he would respond.
I was just wondering, maybe take that a step further.
Yeah.
How you can see would God be the sufficient and necessary cause of evil in the world?
Yeah, he deals with the problem of evil at some length, and unfortunately Kaufman didn't include that material. But I think it's towards the end of this work on the principles of natural knowledge that he deals with it as follows. Oh, incidentally, that's a very pertinent question, because I think one of the major problems for metaphysical idealism is the problem of evil, at least from a theistic standpoint. For the obvious reason that if there is no real materiality, no real physical forces, then all of the things that are part of the problem of evil, physical pain, cancers, and tornadoes, and all the rest of it, including death, you see, don't have the kind of explanation that has traditionally been given. Namely, that they are caused by physical processes, which are part of the physical environment in which God has put. If we run afoul of its processes, we break our necks, you see. Well, if you don't have physical causes to explain physical evils, you got a problem. And inasmuch as those things come to us as passive experiences, you have to say God causes it directly, you see. So idealism often has a problem with that, and so there are idealists who try to handle it by affirming a finite God. That while he has all the power there is, it's not infinite power. That there is a limit to what is conceivable in terms of a world without evil. You see? So that even God could not come up with that sort of an idea to share with us. Granted what he was after in finite human beings. Yeah, other idealists will argue that physical evils are illusory, where you get closer to the hallucination, the sort of thing. And somewhere in that ball game, you'll find the attitudes of Christian Science, which is an idealist metaphysic. In fact, some years ago, I had a student who had come from a Christian Science background, and when we were talking about Berkeley, he said something like, you know, that's the way I was brought up to think. You see, Berkeley. Now, how does Berkeley himself handle it? Well, his emphasis, of course, is going to be that the world of nature is, as Newton has depicted it, a world with a fixed order that isn't arbitrarily interrupted by God. It's a fixed order, this general order of nature. He maintains that this general order of nature is essential for the guidance of ordinary life. The environment has to be predictable. It's essential if we're going to be able to understand nature's processes. And you could add, do science, use nature's resources. must be orderly and predictable. In other words, it's essential for all human planning, all human purposes, all mental activities. And these advantages outweigh what he calls particular inconveniences. So that he's using what historically was known as the greater good argument. Evils are permitted for a greater good. They are built into the orderedness of things for a greater good. The term particular inconveniences seems to underrate the problem. But he wants to say that problems of this sort, natural evils, are necessary in bringing out the contrast, accenting beauty, shading the picture so that we can really see what's good and pursue it. In other words, the fact that there is pleasure and pain involved in human experience serves as God's pedagogue, schoolmaster, in teaching us how he wants us to live, teaching us how to behave, which of course is one of the things that John Locke said in talking about ethics, that pleasure and pain provide sort of reward and punishment, provide a kind of built-in discipline in learning what's right and wrong. So that in that sense, pain, fear are necessary to our well-being when seen in larger perspective. So his is a greater good kind of argument, which, of course, is essentially the same as Christian theists have used throughout the centuries for natural evils, the greater good argument. You see. So that while you might say that this is particularly a problem for an idealist, all right, if an idealist can use a greater good argument, he's in no worse case than anybody else. Now, when it comes to human sin, he's very explicit. This is our active ideas, you see. And the consequences of that on other people, well, God orders their experience consistently with the effects of your intentions towards those other people. So, combination of free will argument and greater good argument takes care of it.
Would you say then that the natural evils would be a part of the natural process, even if sin had never entered the world?
Yeah, he seems to, yes.
So is therefore man mortal by nature?
That wouldn't necessarily follow. It could be that the experience of death is something which God gave subsequent to the fall. Now, I don't think he discusses that particular question. At least I don't recall it. Oh, yes, yes. But you see, whatever you say about the question you raise is natural evil due to the fall. The fact is that any finite physical being is very contingent for existence on what happens into the environment. Adam could have fallen out of a legitimate tree and broken his stupid neck, you know. I'm not inclined to buy the notion that natural evil began with the fall. I think it's pretty obvious, unless the floor of the garden was sterile, that bugs were squashed every time people walked around in And if animal death is part of the problem of natural evil, then, you see.
Berkeley as a bishop had a problem with the incarnation of Christ? Isn't it like a greater spirit became a...
All right, David, now think. How do you suppose, get some active ideas going, how do you suppose Berkeley would respond on the incarnation? I'll start with an easier one first. How do you suppose he would react to the question, well, you mean that God didn't create the heavens and the earth? Well, what would Berkeley say?
Well, I think that why it's so hard to find an error in Berkeley is because it's as much as it seems he does very little. All he does is he takes out the middle thing. I mean, in a sense, I mean, okay, God could either actually give us physical bodies and give us all this physical stuff and then place us in here.
Yeah.
And then we'd have all these perceptions. Or he could just like have us a spirit being and just automatically shove all these perceptions into our beingness.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? Either way, it's going to turn out the same.
Right.
God did it, and it's on to us.
Yeah, you see, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, how would you translate that into Berkeleyese? You see, maybe it's easier to say Berkeley's. How would you translate it? Well, it would be something like this, that at a certain time God brought into being finite minds and began giving them ordered experience of natural world. You see? Well, all right, what would he say about incarnation, the incarnation? You see? Namely, that Christ appeared among us, God in the flesh. Now, what is flesh? Flesh, in Berkeley's, you see, is certain ideas, certain experience, passively received, you see. So that Christ was as fully human in that regard as anyone else. Born of a woman? Yes, as really as you are. You see? Because he's not denying anything that is experienced. All that he's doing is making us think twice about the ultimate reality underlying what is experienced.
I was going to ask them, but since he says that we get passive ideas because God produces them, does that mean when Jesus, he would receive passive ideas as well as...
Yes. Yes, this would be part of his humanness in the incarnation. If he is fully human as well as fully divine, this is the way we've always understood the incarnation, you see, in the history of the church. If he's fully human, he will experience things as we experience them. Yeah. So you don't have to adjust your thinking about Christ's earthly experience any more than you have to adjust your thinking about your experience. You still experience just the same thing as you do, and so did he. You see? Yeah.